Look closely at this photo. Three friends smiling, arms around each other. Nothing unusual. Except one of them would later call this the last normal picture of her life, because of something standing 11 feet behind them. And for 4 years nobody saw it. The photo looks ordinary at first. Three friends. A birthday dinner. Warm restaurant light. Somebody's arm slung around somebody else's shoulder, the way people stand when they've had 2 drinks and nowhere else to be. If you scrolled past it you wouldn't stop. That's the whole point. Now zoom in. Past the faces. Past the balloons taped to the wall. Look at the far corner of the frame near the kitchen door, half swallowed by shadow. There's a man there. He's not smiling. He's not looking at the camera. He's not looking at the cake or the balloons or anything else in that restaurant. He's looking at one person. Directly at her. And close. Close enough that if you laid a tape measure across the photo, he'd be standing just a few steps away. Nobody noticed him. Not that night. Not for 4 years. This is the story of how one forgotten photograph, taken to remember a birthday, became the only piece of evidence in a case nobody even knew existed. It happened on a Friday night, in a small restaurant with fairy lights on the ceiling and laminated menus that never change. 3 friends since college. We'll call the birthday girl Mara. Some details in cases like this stay hidden for her safety. This dinner was a tradition. Same place every year. Cheap wine, a few laughs, a photo to end the night. A waiter took the picture, quick and careless, the way it always goes. Nobody checked the background. Why would they? You don't compose a photograph at a birthday dinner. You just capture the moment. And moments don't come with warnings. She posted it that night. Her friends did too. He got the usual comments. You guys look so happy. Miss you. Then, like every other photo, it disappeared into a camera roll, buried under memes and screenshots and a photo of a parking receipt. Nobody thought about it again. Until 4 years later. It started with a message. Not a comment. Not a tag. A private message from someone Mara barely remembered. They said they'd been going through old photos for a project. Something about analyzing crowds and reflections in public spaces, one of those strange hobbies people online actually have. They'd found her old birthday post. Then they asked one question. Do you know who's standing behind you in this one? She almost laughed it off. Restaurants are full of strangers. Waiters. Other diners. People are always in the background of photos. But something about the wording sat wrong with her. Not, who's that guy? Do you know who's standing behind you? Like the sender already knew the answer was no. She opened the photo for the first time in years. And this time she actually looked. He was still there. Of course he was. Photos don't change, only the people looking at them do. Tall. Thin. A dark jacket that didn't match the season. And his face, blurred slightly by the low light, was turned toward her. Not toward the camera. Not toward the cake. Toward her. She told herself it was nothing. A stranger glancing over for half a second, caught in one unlucky frame. People look at cameras. Flashes draw eyes. But that wasn't the strangest part. She started digging through her camera roll. Other outings same year. A coffee shop. A parking lot. A group hike 8 months after that birthday dinner. He was in 3 more. Faint. Distant. Easy to miss, unless you already knew to look. And once you see a pattern like that, you can't unsee it. That's the part nobody warns you about. It's not the discovery that gets you. It's the question that comes right after. How long has this been true? She sent the photos to her 2 friends. Neither of them had ever looked at the background either. Why would they? A background's whole job is to stay invisible. But one of them, we'll call her Priya, went quiet for a moment. Then she admitted something she'd never told anyone. Around that same year she used to feel watched walking home at night. Nothing she could point to. Just a feeling. She brushed it off the way you do. Everyone feels that sometimes. A feeling is easy to dismiss. For photographs or not. They went to the police. And here's where it stops feeling like a movie. There was no dramatic arrest, no flashing lights. What they had was a blurry man in old photos, present, but never doing anything illegal. Standing in a restaurant. Standing near a coffee shop. Standing near a trailhead. None of that on its own breaks any law. But patterns matter. And the officers who looked into it took it seriously enough to dig deeper. They worked with what little existed, timestamps buried in the photo files, location tags from 2 of the 4 pictures. And slowly a shape started to form. This man hadn't wandered into frame once by chance. His appearances lined up loosely with places Mara had posted about publicly just weeks before. A tagged location here. A check-in there. Enough digital breadcrumbs for someone paying close attention to guess, roughly, where she'd be next. Sit with that for a second. Nothing he did was illegal on its own. Standing in public isn't a crime. It's the years of accumulation that turn something legal into something quietly terrifying. Investigators eventually put a name to the face. Facial recognition, matched against an old employee badge photo from a company he used to work for. No serious criminal record. No prior charges like this. Just an ordinary name, an ordinary job. And, according to people who'd known him, a long history of watching people from a distance without ever once approaching them. He was brought in for questioning. He denied everything according to court documents filed later. Said it was coincidence. Said he simply frequented the same public places she did. That wasn't the detail that changed everything. When investigators pulled data off a device recovered under a legal warrant, they found something nobody expected. Folders. Dozens of them. Organized by name. By year. Mara's was just one. This is where the story stops being about one woman and one photograph. What started as a single blurry figure at a birthday dinner turned out to be a single thread in something much bigger. A pattern stretching back nearly a decade, touching people who had never met each other, who had no idea they were connected by anything at all. Each folder was full of images, most of them pulled straight from public social media, saved and cataloged like evidence in a case only he was building. Alongside them, notes, dates, locations. Written not like a diary but like an inventory. We won't sensationalize what came next, because the truth is disturbing enough on its own. Nothing in the recovered files and nothing confirmed in court showed that he had ever made physical contact with any of them. What existed was watching. Documenting. Years of it. That didn't make it any less serious. Under the law in the state where this was prosecuted, stalking doesn't require contact. It requires a pattern that would make any reasonable person afraid. A folder with your name on it, filled with years of tracked photographs, clears that bar without much argument. The case that followed leaned almost entirely on digital evidence. The photos, the metadata, the recovered files, and testimony from several of the people found in those folders, Mara included. He was charged with stalking-related offenses. The case dragged on, as these things often do, stretching past a year before it reached a conclusion. What the court could prove clearly was the pattern itself. Years of documented, non-consensual tracking across multiple lives. What the court could never fully answer was why. He gave no real explanation beyond insisting more than once that he meant no harm. Whether that was true in any meaningful sense is something even the people close to the case still argue about. There was no big reveal of a motive. No manifesto. No single moment that explained who he'd become. Sometimes the most honest thing a story like this can tell you is, we don't fully know. And pretending otherwise would be a lie. What we do know is this. An ordinary photo, taken for no reason other than to remember a good night, became the only reason any of it ever came to light. Not a confession. Not a witness. Just a detail in the background that nobody thought to look at, until somebody finally did. Mara still has that photo. She thought about deleting it. She didn't. She says she keeps it now for a different reason. Not for the birthday. For what it taught her, that a photograph was never just what you pointed the camera at. It's everything the camera happened to catch, whether you meant it to or not. Somewhere right now, in your camera roll, your cloud backup, or some dusty photo album on a shelf, there's probably a picture of you with something ordinary sitting in the background. Most of the time that's all it is. Ordinary. Forgettable. But every now and then somebody looks a little closer. And that's how a story like this begins.